The fact that Xi Jinping is now visiting Wuhan, does that suggest that China is near or at an all clear?
When you're dealing with a new virus, you're never complacent about it. We may have handled the first phase reasonably well. We should not sound the all clear. I think the presidency's visit to Wuhan is part of his overall campaign to make sure that the situation is under control across the whole of China.
We've been hearing a lot about the summer months in the Northern Hemisphere. It tends to burn itself out.
Let me speak as a doctor. This is a new virus. It is very dangerous and wishful to make that assumption that this will disappear in the summer months. We should be prepared, assume the worst, even if we're hoping for the best.
Is this going to affect the timing of the election?
You'll have to ask the Prime Minister that, but the election is not the most important thing right now. This is a time to focus on delivery. The politics will take care of itself.
There's this sense that the U.S. is almost laughably far behind in terms of preparedness. Is that fair?
I would not want to engage in that kind of polemic. The United States has got enormous resources at its disposal. It's a matter of getting it organized and getting it delivered. So let's wait and see. I would never count the Americans out.
Okay.
This is a global phenomenon. In fact, most of the new cases are now arising outside of China. Maps which do not reveal any cases probably are indications of lack of testing. Zoom in now to Singapore. In the initial phase, it's obviously about border control, preventing the import. The next phase, hard containment, which means identify, isolate, treat, keep mortality low. As long as your healthcare systems are not overwhelmed, we believe you can get mortality rates at about 1%, hopefully even lower. Beyond that, you want to ensure that the peak does not exceed your intensive care capacity of your systems. Be prepared for the long haul. In fact, this is an acid test of every single country's quality of healthcare, standard of governance, and social capital. And if any one of these tripod is weak, it'll be exposed quite unmercifully. The latest data indicates that in 19 days, if you miss it, the number of cases will increase by a factor of 10. That's actually what happened probably in Europe and in Iran. In the case of Singapore, we're determined not to take our eye off that ball. One great advantage we have in Singapore is not just being able to deliver, but that our people do it. That social capital of trust and compliance when the chips are down with an extreme situation is absolutely crucial.
For the people at home, though, we've noticed in the last 2-3 days or so, the number of infections, confirmed infections, has actually jumped. How concerned should people be? What are you telling them?
I think we should remain eternally vigilant. And that's why we're taking additional precautions, canceling or postponing some events. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you understand that this is going to be with us for 1 year, from time to time cases will come in, from time to time a cluster will pop up. And it is important we identify early, go in, quarantine, contact trace, we can damp it down. But even when we damp down this cluster, keep the lookout for the next. It's no accident that so far, we've had zero mortality. Now, we cannot assume we'll have zero mortality. That's not possible. We have more than enough capacity for now, and our objective is to make sure we always stay ahead of the curve. But let me tell you as a doctor, these are things which you can't just build up overnight. It's years and years of investment in people, in systems, in capacity. Even from a foreign policy point of view, we now have test kit diplomacy. The fact that China published the genome in early January was the reason why we were also able to develop the PCR test kits, which we were able to help provide them when they needed some additional help.
Can I just pick up on your point about test kit diplomacy? I'm thinking specifically about Indonesia, where there has been very few cases reported. Is Singapore in any way helping Indonesia? And are you concerned about imported cases from Indonesia?
Let's again put things in context.
Sure.
4 of the world's 10 most busy air routes are in ASEAN. So I've told my fellow foreign ministers, we're actually one hot zone. We are sharing information, capacity, and we are coordinating our measures. It's not just a form of words to say we're in the same boat. It's just a time to work together. Finger pointing, making unnecessary comments are unhelpful. This problem and its aftermath, its economic aftermath, is going to last at least a year, which means anything we do needs to be sustainable and sensible for the long term.
What makes you think that this situation is going to drag on for at least a year?
Well, you see it has exploded. If this had been, like SARS, confined to East Asia, Singapore, it took us about 4 months to get over. Probably about 6 months for the economic impact to wear out. This time,
It's going to be worse and
it's
longer.
going to be longer, and it's going to be all countries. So you need to be psychologically prepared.
Do you think that this changes the relationship between Singapore and China?
We were one of the first to announce some travel measures. But I can tell you that China has also told me they understood. There's been close communication looking beyond that. For the next 1 year, how do we reboot economy? How do we handle a sustainable posture for travel?
Yes.
And how do we keep life going? Because you see, there is also a fallacy that there's a trade-off between healthcare and the economy. Actually, they're both sides of the same coin. If you don't have an economy, if you don't have resources which you can devote for healthcare and for keeping a society going, you then face a very sticky situation. Singapore cannot lock itself out of the world, nor can we shut down. It means from time to time, we will be importing cases. In fact, if you speak to the Chinese now, and I've been in touch with them, I think they are now more worried about importation of cases into China rather than their own containment efforts locally.